you're going to get when you go to splice. You will have a backup of this, but this is your main splicing. This is what you are going to do. You notice that line that cuts right across here? Anybody know what that line is?
That's that line.
That's that line right here. This is actually two prints. So this sits kind of like that. So if you don't know what the next print is over, you're going to miss all of that. All right? That's why it's important to know what the next print over is. Now, we're nice enough to give it to you in this format simply because that's what we want you to splice. It's easier for you. But that doesn't always come this way. A lot of times you'll get this and be told, hey, this whole road needs to be done. You need to know what the next maps are. Otherwise, you're just going to get yourself confused. Very easy. All right, so does that make sense? All right, so every map has symbology. So, and again, so that symbology thing you see down there, that strand symbology, right, tells you, okay, look on your print. If you take a look at that print, you'll notice, pick any street, you're going to notice a circle with an X in it. That's a symbology for something. You need to know that. And then next to that, you're going to need to know some of the information it tells you and all that stuff. So know that that information is down here, but not necessarily is everything on the print. Because if it's a normal thing, they're not going to keep putting it down there. It's usually stuff that is unique to this print is what's going to be in that little symbology. You'll see things like trees, that only is in this thing. You'll see node blocks, things, things to that effect. So, the next one over...
Are those maps laid out north to south the same way?
No, because what we do here is, this is for a splicing, for someone that's just going to splice. This is a segmented of this, so no, they would not be. These are just for you. What they do is they try to put it all into one print, make it easier for you to be out there with. Instead of trying to give you this and having you flip through things. Yeah, these you never know what it is. What you normally do is when you get to the field, you orient it to the, this is University Ave. If I'm standing in a building, there's University Ave. You know what I mean? That type of thing. But other than that, it really doesn't have any north, south, or anything to that effect. So, the next block we talked about was this thing called a segmented node block, right? Have you guys ever heard the term nodes? You'll hear us talk about it, right? It stands for Network Optical Device Encoder. That's what it actually stands for, Network Optical Device Encoder, all right? So, nodes are built based on our design. And on our design, and Comcast has different designs, the most recent design as of January 1st of this year is this thing called N0, node plus 0. What does that mean? Starting forward, from today forward, well, January 1st forward, all our designs are node and no amplifiers after it. So that means about 50 customers per node. So you're going to be doing splicing everywhere off of a node. So get used to it. It's going to be, the building that we're doing, 350 University Ave, it's 4 stories, there's 2 nodes per floor. Just the way it is. You know what I mean? That's the reality. Prior to that, we had node plus 1, node plus 2, depending on how many. Max is node plus 7, and that's for a design reason. So at no point will you actually be 7 amps out past the node. And if you are, there's a major design flaw, and we're going to probably have to fix it. All right? So how that works out is, the reason you want to look at that node block information is it tells you how many actual nodes are on your print. Now, if you take a look at this real quick, can anybody give me an idea how many nodes is actually being covered by this print? Take a good look at it. And anybody know what they actually are? I can barely read that without my...
One node.
Okay,
Yeah, it says
N1,
one node.
right?
Yeah.
It's tough to read unless you get what he's got and stuff. So, the reality is there's 3 nodes on this print. There's actually 3. How do I know there's 3? See the dot lines cut across? Those are called node boundaries. There's a node here, there's a node here, and then there's a little portion of a node here. All right?
But it's an extension of that other
It's an extension of another map, but part of that node is on this print. All right? And that little diagram down there will tell you what that is. All right? Now, if you really want to look into it, there's these things called these tombstones, which are all these little square, little rounds, or whatever you want to call them, things here. Those are called amplifier blocks. We call them tombstones. The reason we call them tombstones is they look like a tombstone, but that tells you all the information about the amp and what kind of equipment's in the amp. So really high-end stuff that you'll see. That's actually a level 5 system. So if I were looked at this, and again, without blowing these up, some of these, if you look at
Blow
them,
one up.
they're all different in all 3 of those. So this one here looks like node 2.
Yeah, there you go, right there.
Oh, yep. Yeah, but you can't really. Oh, there's one. So the top of it, you can see it says 17-002. So that node block, if you look at it, it says 17-002. That's actually information for you, right? So that tells me it's node 17 that we're building, and this is amp number 002. Got it? Also has some great information on that little block, which we'll get into much later, but I'll give you a little history about what it says. Not only do I know it's amp 17 or amp 17-002, I also know
So
that it's
that's node 17.
node 17 amp 002. Yep. I also know that it's 1,185 feet away from the node. How do I know that? Look at the next thing down. Tells me it's 1,185 feet from the amp, or from the node. How do I know it's the node? If you take a look over, you see the number 1 right next to it? That tells me it's the first amp in line. Why would it be called 002 if it's the first amp in line? Because a node is an amplifier. That's 001. 002 is the first node after the first amp after the node. So that's why we see the 1 there saying, hey, this is the first one in line. Good, important information. Why is that important to me? Well, there's electricity in our system, and if I know I'm amp number 1, and I know there's an amp 2, 3, 4, what does that tell me about this amp? It's got power in it. If I pull the fuse on it, who did I just shut off?
Everybody.
Everybody, the entire node. So please don't do that, all right, without somebody knowing.
So this number here is the
Footage
for the next amp.
to this amp, from the node
from
to
the
this
node.
amp, right? From the node to that amp. It's the distance to that amp, all right? So the next number down there, that Max 601E, that is the type of amp you're going to be utilizing. There's 601E, there's 601C, there's all different versions of it. This 601E, which happens to be here, tells me it's a dual amp. It's just a type of amp that we use, and we'll go over that for you, all right? The next numbers below that, 15.8, 14.9, and 18, right? 15.8, 14.9, and 18. Those are my input levels at my base frequencies. Frequencies are 3, 58, and 108, actually 107. That's unique, specific to the area you're working in. So you need to know this because you got to know, all right, 15.8, that's my low frequency. That's usually channel 3, all right? If we were balancing this, we would need to know that information. You're not going to get into that, but it's good to know if you see that. Directly below that, 45, 42, 35. Those are my output levels. So it tells me that this amplifier is a standard 30 amp gain amplifier. So I know if I'm coming in with 14.8 or 15 and I'm leaving with 45, I'm gaining 30 amps. Right? That's standard. Move down there, the 7 and the 3. The 7 is the pad that is placed in the amplifier to get those 15 levels, and the 3 is the equalizer level placed to get me equalized. Now I'm not going to go crazy on what that means because you're going to be spending the next 8 days with me on that. What it is levels go out a lot stronger. You know, if you send a level out at the same speed, the lower frequencies travel a lot further than the higher frequencies. So the lower frequencies have more power if we had the same distance. So I have to cut them down differently than I would do the higher frequencies. So nothing until you get into balancing, and that's a whole different class. But it's good to know what's there. What's good about that is if I seen a 0 and a 1 in there, That tells me that I can't cut anything into that plant from the node to that amp. I got no wiggle room. I'm screwed. If I got to cut a tap in because somebody built a new house, I'm building cable. That's the concept. That's where I look at it, all right? Move down from there, 35 and 33. Those are your return amps. You know, when you order on-demand cable, somebody notifies the cable company that you are ordering on demand. It's called a return system. Every time you hit that, the signal comes back to our system. Those are the levels that come back to our system. Those are the pads. Below that, 17.035 or 17-035, that is the power supply feeding this system, all right? And then N, right? And then it goes N, and then after that it says 84.8. Very good bit of information. That's 84 volts. So if I have a problem and I need to know if that amplifier is working correctly, I can go measure it and see if there's 84 volts at that. You know, if I get there and there's only 60 volts, I got a problem, an electrical issue I got to deal with.